Okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. It's officially 8:30 p.m. My name's Ron. I'm an alcoholic. How you doing? Welcome home. Quick announcement for the people on YouTube that are listening. And in fact, if you guys ever listen on YouTube, Jason works tirelessly and puts a lot of hours into posting these things. So if you're on there and you're listening, put a comment down and say, thanks, Jason. How's that, if you remember that? Yeah, let's. Great work. We have a ton of people behind the scenes that make this group possible, and we had to give a little shout out to our chairman, our official chairman for the last few years, Andrew, who's not here. He does a great job. And with that, we'll introduce the world's greatest chairperson. Let's give Nick a warm welcome.
My name's Nick, and I'm a shoeaholic. Welcome to the Conscious Contact, speaker of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Nick, and I am an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting. It meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m., followed by our speaker at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. And this is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves on a first name basis? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Pete. I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome. Welcome. Yes, sir.
Brandon, alcoholic.
Hi, Rebecca. Welcome. Yes, sir.
Jeremy, alcoholic. Mike, yes, sir.
Jerry, welcome.
Matt, alcoholic.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Ray.
Ray, alcoholic.
Welcome, Ray. Okay, yes. Welcome. Okay, and welcome to everyone. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Excellent. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Yes, Dave.
My name is David. I'm an alcoholic. Friday nights at 8:30, Lake Toe meeting. There's a Burning Desires, it's a bonfire meeting. Start up about 7. Bring some bourbons, dogs. They start up the grill. Come out for a good time. Food fellowship.
Thanks, Dave. Yes, sir.
Dave, alcoholic.
Hey, Dave.
Our home group, Promises Group, is having our annual picnic in Allentown on August 11th. There's somebody named Ron Kane who's going to come out and speak for us.
I ain't going.
Do some support.
Thank you.
Waiting for details.
Very good. Awesome. Okay, our sister group is a Big Book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30, and that's just up the street at the Salem Church, 186 East Court Street. Coffee's on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in a jar on the table marked Big Book and CD donations, and all the CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, PA, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there, join our Facebook page to keep informed, and share upcoming events and meetings. And now with that, I have Michelle to come and read our Just for Today Prayer of Recovery.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle and I'm an alcoholic. Just for today, prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable, I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And I'd like to ask Will to come up to read the preamble.
Hi everybody, I'm Will and I'm an alcoholic. Alcohol Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now I have Mandy to come up and read the 12 steps of recovery.
Hi guys, Mandy, alcoholic. Where are they? Are you have them up there? Okay. All right. The AA 12 steps of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs.
The 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting and declining outside contributions. At this time, I'd like to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees. We do have expenses, and this group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops. We also have a Venmo. If you don't have cash, come see me after the meeting. We have a Venmo for that as well. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones, and please try to limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now to introduce our speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Tonight we have Nashville Pat from Tennessee from the 11-step group.
Hey, I'm Pat, I'm alcoholic. I got a home group, which is the 11-step meeting. It used to be Men's Stag. Men's Stags where they bark at you. They talk about God real aggressively. It's just my kind of place. But we're 2 kids in a different kind of life now. The 11-step group's much calmer. They pray a lot. And they're so quiet there, it makes me uncomfortable. And that's why I keep showing up. Anyways, my sober date is December 2nd, 2012. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from South Philadelphia. Born and raised. I'm playing. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. That's where I got sober in Burns, Tennessee. But my home group, the most important thing to say, and I used to hate hearing it, was I've worked at 12 steps. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor who has a sponsor. All of us not only work the 12 steps ourselves, but we take other men through the 12 steps. And that's real important to say. So I don't know, it's been a while since I spoke, and I really don't like to speak. People tell me I'm good at it, but I don't really like to. I like one-on-one a whole lot better. From Nashville, Tennessee, I was raised on the west side of town. My parents were separated, and we come from a rougher area. I used to say we was po folk, and we come up in this terrible environment. And I saw later on in sobriety how much that hurt my mama's feelings to say that. So we came up with good morals and not many means, is how I like to put it now. But anyways, I've heard a lot of different ways. I knew I was an alcoholic at 10 years old when I bumped my toe and was scared to talk to, the girl in the neighborhood. And I don't know. Psychologically, I couldn't explain it to you. The best one I heard, I know, so if we were all best friends early on, if it was 3 of us and we were best friends, there was something in my head that always said, y'all were better friends than I was with y'all. Right? There was this peculiar mental twist towards everything, right? And so I can identify with that. There's this little old lady from the South, and she was speaking one time, and she said, I hear that story about I took that first drink, and I was 6 foot tall and bulletproof. And she said, when I took a drink, I was still 4 foot and fat. I just didn't give a and I can relate to that a whole lot better too, right? I think digging too much into that psychology of how I am stops me from being who God wants me to be. And Alcoholics Anonymous and some of the good old timers, man, they helped me surrender that opinion or what I had to know to be so. And I'm very grateful for that. But like I said, and I'm going to do my best not to cuss. God, please help me don't say the F word. It's one of my favorites. That's an F. Anyways, so I grew up in West Nashville. I took my first drink when I was 12 years old. Lifestyle is a big part of my story. Not only did I take my first drink, but I also did my first armed robbery. That was interesting. I'd love to tell a tough story, but I couldn't even point the pistol. I was shaking so bad. I said, please give me your money, sir. I ain't even hit puberty yet. You know what I mean? I'm out there trying to rob this guy. Took my first drink, and I didn't have no aha moment. I think when I took that first drink, it was just some older dudes in the neighborhood, and I wanted to be cool for them. I didn't know how I was supposed to feel, My sponsor, he talks about alcohol's little hyper crack cousin, but his daddy was a crackhead, and he said we'd steal it from him. And we do it, he said, but we didn't know how to be, so we play video games, we'd be running around. And he said the first time he saw his dad cracked out, butt cheeks tight, looking out the window, he was like, I was like that every time after, right? So it's funny, man. It's like alcohol, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have no aha moment, right? I just knew I needed something. Good at chasing stuff. So anyways, first and foremost, I come up with good principles. My mama's a sober woman. She's been sober a long time. I didn't come up with any hang-ups with God. She'd come to my room early on, and she'd say, baby, if you want to pray, go ahead. And she said, and if you don't, that's okay too. And you can talk to God like he's your friend. My daddy wasn't he's a rough man, I tell you that, but he's a good man. All he knew to do was go to work. And I'll get to that on my 4th and 5th step. But anyways, I got no excuse to have been or be as I am, There's another lady, I was in a meeting in Georgia, and it says, in doctor's opinion, it says something about alcoholics drink because they like the way it feels. And she said, that set me free. She said, for years I had always attached an excuse to it. Mama had 3 nipples, or daddy beat me, till I couldn't walk, or whatever it was. And she said that took every excuse I've ever had, and it brought me to my truth, was I drink because I want to. And it helped me a whole lot. So anyways, I jump off the porch. I couldn't put the pistol up. I didn't know how drinking was supposed to make me feel. But just like a good alcoholic, I sought to be better at it. By 16, 17, and man, coming up in that kind of environment too, I will say that, man, one thing that not having means gave us was a close connection with family. I mean, the way I am towards my mama, the way I am towards my siblings, it was close. It had to be, right? Because we depended on each other to survive. And that's a beautiful thing. That helped me when I did get to AA. But anyways, and I'm bouncing around. When I was 18 years old, I caught my first charge. I was drinking. And I'll never forget this day because I just want to tell y'all the truth about who I am. There ain't nothing tough about who I was or how I was. The police come knocking on the door. It's about 13 of them. Every charge I ever had was aggravated or violent. And they kick in my mama's door damn near. They come and get me. Now at the time, this is how tough I am. I'm a gang member. I'm a drunk. I'm sleeping on a twin bed and some Mickey Mouse sheets at my mama's house, eating up all her food. I'm tough as nails, right? A quilt don't even fit, you know what I mean? And I wake up with a pistol in my face and they take me out. And I'll never forget walking down them stairs and seeing the look of sheer terror on my mother and my brother's face. Just terrified. And both of them got tears streaming down their face. And here's the man I was. They take me downtown, they get me booked. I call my mama and I said, who the hell gonna come get me out? Not are you okay? Not I'm sorry that all this has happened, but who the hell gonna come get me out? Type of man I was too. I'd like to say family was everything. Like I said, we grew up with a close connection. I'd steal out my little brother's piggy bank. I'd take from my mom, I'd take her ATM card. One of the most hurtful ones, man, was my daddy gave her $60 one time so her and my brother could make it through the week, and I took 40 of it so I could go drink. And that's who I was. I think everything else I did was to try to put a different mask on to hide me from the true shame of what I'd become. So anyways, I catch that first case. My daddy come and got me, and he said, look, he said, if anything happens again, this is your one and only time. And you know I mean it, and he did. 6 months later, I caught 2 of the same charges, and I didn't get out. Prison was the best thing that ever happened to me at that time. Me and Rafiq was talking about it on the way up here. It's so crazy, too. They take me up to 5C. Like I said, all my charges were aggravated. So I didn't know this. I thought I was pretty tough in the neighborhood, but they put you with high-point criminals, which is a whole lot tougher than I was, you know. And so I remember I get there, I got my bus tub in my hands, and I'm shaking like booty meat, you know. But I'm looking tough because I got to, right? And they start reaching in my shit or my stuff there, and I dropped the bus tub, and it made a loud sound. They backed up, and I was like, all right, good enough, man. I'm okay. I'm gonna make it in here. And so this second time I didn't get out, and man, thank God. In there, I did the programs too. I tried to do the programs, and I remember reading this AA book, and the only thing I caught on to was more about alcoholism when it says, if you think you're not a drunk, go try some controlled drinking. And I was like, well, I ain't never had a problem with drinking. It ain't really been drinking. I'll be fine. So I did my time. Now, cool thing is, and why I say I was free in prison, is because for the first time in my life, I started doing good things for myself. I'd make my bed in the morning, I'd work out twice a day, I'd read books, I went and got my GED, right? I mean, and mama's fired up about that GED too. We had a little party, she said, that's my baby! It was incredible, you know? I put that on my resume, I don't even care, man. That right there was a proud moment in my life. And I start doing these things, and I start feeling better. I got freedom to myself. Man, I don't hate myself as much, right? I never associate. It's the same thing in treatment. People go to treatment. I remember I sponsored this kid named Brian, and he said, Pat, he said, I've been to 7 of these treatment centers. And he said, and every time I go, I tell myself the same lie. It's that 30 days is going to keep me sober when I get out. It's about doing what I did in those 30 days to keep feeding my spirit to stay sober. And man, he blessed me with that one. But anyways, I'm feeling better, and so I get out, and I think I was sure I wasn't a drunk, and I found out pretty quick. I met that drinking is my drug of choice. I met my second drug of choice. Her name was Brittany, aka Lucifer. she was interested, you know. And at the end of the day, this last time I was in Nashville, this old boy said, he's like, man, it's like a relationship program. It's like every step, and like getting to that 4th and that 5th and that 8 and that 9, he's like, it's repairing relationships, which is necessary to stay sober, you know, because the spiritual life's not a theory. We have to live it, you know, like Sandy Beach said. But But anyways, I get out and I try some controlled drinking. It wasn't very controlled. It got pretty rough pretty quick. I want to say I stayed out quite a while, but towards the end I was stealing TVs off the wall. A week before I got locked up the second time, I'm in the trap house, and I drank like a whole handle, and I couldn't walk. Alcohol's cousins, the whole nine, and I remember I stood up to walk, and I stumbled, but I had like this crazy sober moment, and it was loud as day. It was just like, man, you're gonna die. You doing the same things you always do, and you're gonna die. And that scared me enough. I hurried up and drank some more. Passed out. That was scary. About a week later, and this was after the second time in prison, about a week later, there's a place called the Hope Foundation in Nashville. They've been trying to help my little brother for years. He's been trying to get sober since he was 13. And this lady named Katie, she asked to see me. She said, I need to talk to you about your brother. He needs some help, right? And I'm at the trap. I ain't showered in 3 days. I'm like, yeah, I'll help. And I'm not really going to be a help, but I'll help, So I show up, and it ain't to help him, right? It's like, you need to go to treatment. And she started talking about these different programs. She's talking about one in Memphis. She's like, you work, you don't get paid, but you get to live there for free, and you work. And I was like, ma'am, I just got out of prison. Like, I'm not going back. And she's like, all right. What about, she's throwing these ones out, and she finally landed on this a spiritual retreat, and it's all AA. They just basically take you through the steps. And I said, no, you know what, I'm cool, I appreciate it, but I'm gonna be all right. And she said, you're trying everything. How much money you got in your pocket? I smiled, I'm like, I got $7, but I'll have 100 by noon, And she was like, she said, okay, cool. And I said, I've had enough of your time to leave. She said, well, I talked to your brother about you getting sober the other day. Do you wanna know what he said? I said, no, thank you, I've had enough of your time. I turned to walk away, and she said, your little brother laughed in my face, and he said, my big brother will die before he's anything different. And I don't know about y'all, but I stayed in this mindset, that twist, that peculiar twist of I can make it back to where I was. I can be all right. I can get back to that point where this is fun again, right? Where it works again. And in that moment, I saw myself as I was. I didn't get sober because I wanted to quit drinking. I accepted whatever y'all told me to do because I knew I wouldn't quit drinking. I knew I'd die with a bottle in my hand. So that broke me, and I said, I'll do whatever you tell me. You tell me to go, I'll go. And she did. She sent me to this place. It's the creepiest place I've ever been in my life. I got a little Kroger bag, like a Wegmans down south. I got a little Kroger bag packed with my gear, right? 3 shirts and some drawers, and no cigarettes. And I'm heading out there, and I get there, man, and these dudes run down scared. They fire at me. How you doing, brother? So grateful to see you, man. We're glad you're here. I was like, oh, back up. You don't want a hug? No, man, I don't want no hug. I don't need nothing from you. Please don't touch me, man. They are fired up. God is good. I'm like, what have I encountered? What am I doing? Can I get your stuff? Don't touch my bag, man. Don't touch my bag, please, man. I go here, they're all happy, man. They're doing like skipping. I've never witnessed anything like it, especially for the past 15 years, And I'm in there, man. I'm just sitting, I'm like, what in the hell, man? And they did what folks in AA do, man. They love me, man. Regardless of how it was, I'm the first week there, and I wanted something different. I remember even when I was in prison, when every night in prison they go, prayer call, and you'll see 300 people in that pod. They'll circle up. Well, you'll see 100, it's 300 total. You'll see 100 of them, they'll circle up. And I remember, man, I'm that guy that's sitting on the top tier. I'm looking down and I'm making fun of them. I'm like, look at these boys, you're going to come to prison and find God? In my heart, I wanted to be in that prayer circle more than anything in the world. I just couldn't because of that pride and ego, because of whatever that piece of alcoholism that just robs me of my freedom. It's built into me, man. That alcoholism still to this day, sober, is built into me, man. It's something inside of me, man, that wants to steal my freedom. It's in between here, mainly from what I found, man. Thanks to good sponsorship. Yeah, but anyway, so I'm there. I'm scared to death. These people are happy. First week out there, I'm shooting ball by myself. I did a lot by myself the first week. I was an animal, all right, just to sum it up. But I'm not even shooting. I'm just throwing the basketball back like this. And I look up on the porch, right, and there's about 16 of them out there, and I can hear the conversation. Like, you going to talk to them? No way. You're talking to them. Like, I'm not doing it, bro. You're doing it. You're newer. You know what I mean? And I ain't no different, right? Because I needed y'all close. But I was so scared to let you. 7 days in the treatment, this story come up, and it's about this little old girl who was in a foreign country, like a third world country, and she got left. She was 5 years old. Her parents left her at this train station, and she had to go to foster care. And I didn't go to foster care. My brother did, and it's a rough place, right? And this little girl does what you got to do there. She scraps, she fights to eat and to be, right? And everybody there, their whole dream, what they want, just like me, they just want to be loved. They want somebody to get them, right? So that's her whole dream, is she just wants to be adopted. She wants to be loved. But she's an older kid, so she don't get picked. So 5 years go by, and this little girl's fighting and scrapping. She's scarred up. She's handled her business, right? She's become what she had to survive. And in my case, that's where I was too. I'm fighting against everything good. I want your hug more than anything in the world, but I can't let you that close. And this guy's telling this story, and he says she's like 9 or 10, and he says she finally gets her wish. It's all she's ever wanted. And there's an American family that come to adopt her. And the man walks in, and there it is. That's her heaven. And he kneels down, and he says, I'd like to be your dad. Can I be your dad? I'd like to adopt you. She's finally getting her wish, and all she could do was hock a loogie right in his face. He told that story that day, and I couldn't cry in front of everybody else, but I went to my room and I started crying. Because, man, I needed that so bad. I was so full of aggression, but it wasn't aggression, man, it was fear. You know, and God bless the dudes in AA. I find this after the fact, but it's just an example of what it means to me, not just because my brother's sober, not because my mama's sober, but the guy, my roommate there, is a chiropractor from the suburbs of South Memphis named Dan Cameron. And before I got there, they had to go talk to him, and they said, Mr. Cameron, there's a man coming to treatment here. He is a known gang member. He's an aggressive criminal. He just got out of prison, and we're gonna put him in your room if you're okay with it. And they said, you okay with it? And this man who ain't never met somebody like me said, does he want to get sober? He said, hell yeah, he'll be my roommate. And that man was so good to me, man. When I tell you goodness, man, he'd say, you need cigarettes? He didn't even smoke. He'd give me cigarettes. He just took care of me, man. Other people did too. There's a man named Andy back home. He's the director, this nonprofit that they do the AA thing too. Well, it's treatment, but they put AA in front of people. But when I was at my worst, when my brother was trying to get sober, and I forgot all about, my best friend Cecil is about 6'6" and 3 men wide. He's massive, and he looks like a criminal. And we went to see my brother pick up a chip at one point, and we're in this, and we are not approachable people on purpose. And this man Andy come across this parking lot, strange little man, and he says, hey bud, he said, I heard you might need some help. I'd sponsor you if you'd let me. To bypass like what's human in us, right, as far as caution, to approach somebody that might be in need, that is very unapproachable, to me, just, man, that speaks volumes about the love that's here. So I'm out here, I'm in this place, they're doing, about a week and a half in, I'm loving it, right? I'm like, man, this is neat inside. On the outside, I'm like, yes, all right, it's cool. I might go to group if they having it, but I don't know, I might sleep too. I'm excited. And so I'm in a big group. I love this. They, they're bringing speakers. They're doing the whole nine. And they have guys like NAA that'll come out, they'll volunteer, and they open the book with you. They start you right there in the doctor's opinion. And every one of them, before they leave, they tell you this ain't going to keep you sober. You get you a sponsor, you do the same thing when you leave. You understand? Thanks, brother. But anyways, I get this Thursday, we're doing this, right? We're in How It Works, or about to be, and they're telling me about this group. Good God Almighty, man. They're saying, brother, you're not going to believe it. There's a unicorn that comes out. It spits out a rainbow that picks you all up and carries you up the hill to God's grace. And I'm like, for real, man? Like a unicorn? And like inside, I'm like, it's going to be the best day of my life. I've been waiting on this forever, right? Now on the outside, I'm just like, yeah, it might be cool. I don't know. If I ain't ate lunch, I ain't coming, just whatever it was, right? Because I was tough. But inside, I'm like, man, I've been waiting on this forever. So I get to this group, man, and expectations are crazy, right? Especially for the alcoholic, because I'm always comparing. I walk in the room and your situation's different than mine at 60 days, and I think I'm doing something wrong, right? This expectation of it's gonna be like this, right? And I go into this group, it is the worst group I have ever been a part of. That Ben Stein's running it, well, if you turn to page 63, he didn't even tell us the top was the promises, right? He don't even pray with us. We get to him like, at least we're gonna pray. And he's like, we're not gonna pray today. You can by yourself if you want to, right? I'm sitting there, I'm mad. There is no unicorn. I might go back to prison for fighting Ben Stein, right? Because of this expectation, I'm in a real weird spot. And I did years. There's a wonderful dude I met in prison named Ken. He was the imam, which is similar to like the pastor, right, in Islam. And me and Ken were talking one day. That was my guy, and I'm arguing with him about something I don't know about, which is what I love to do. And he's laughing. He's like, "Pat, you so crazy, man." He said, "You really want to learn something, Pat?" I said, "Yeah, man, that's what I'm talking to you." Slammed the Quran shut. He threw it across the table, hit me in my chest. He said, "You ever gonna learn something? You need to look yourself." And that's super sick then. I was like, I knew you didn't know, Ken, But anyways, fast forward to this date, I'm sitting in this group, my expectation has plummeted, right? My unicorn did not arrive. And I'm sitting there and I got the book open, I'm just like, man, I knew this wasn't real. And I did what Ken said. I kept reading. And right under that prayer it says, it's good to meet God with a spiritual advisor, a wife, a best friend, but it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. And so I look at that, I say, okay, there's something there. I go up on this hill, and I'm 26 at the time. It's the first time I'm seeing cows in my life. We were talking about that. I ain't never seen a cow before. They're cool. It's like this green, this big tree on top of this hill. It's all this green. The cows over there on that side. And I go up there, and I read that little passage again, and I just said like an honest prayer. I think I'd prayed before, but I'd done it more in it's like I'm like when you talk to a girl the first time and like you tell her the good stuff, or like you present your best. Like, yeah, I've worked a solid job for 6 months. It's not a big deal. Not that you've been fired for 7 more previous, right? That's how I talk to God, right? I just be like, hey man, I'm trying. And but I just said, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was just like, look, man, I don't know if you're real. And I don't know if you want anything to do with a man like me that's done the things I've done. But I'm so tired of hurting my mama, man. I'm tired of hating myself. I'm tired of living like this. And I don't know if you can help me, but if you can, please help me. And sadly enough, the unicorn did not pick me up off the hill, Gandhi didn't come in there and be like, I have bread and rice for you. Jesus didn't come down, but I get up and I start walking down this hill, and I'll never forget it, man. It was the first time ever I can remember my brain wasn't running 10,000 miles an hour. That guilt, that heavy shame, that guilt that we just pack on us, right? It wasn't there. For the first time my whole life, I was okay. Just like Bill's story says, right? This spiritual experience would soon be blotted out by worldly clamors, right? Because there's a difference between spiritual experience and a spiritual awakening. I truly believe that. That's why we stick around. That's why we stay. But anyways, I have that beautiful moment, and then get into the fourth step. We had on time too. I'll talk for hours. So we get into this fourth step, man, and I'm afraid. I'm terrified. And I remember the man asked me, he said, what's wrong with it now? And my belief and what I truly believed to my heart at that moment was that's what kept me alive on the streets. That's what gave me that extra edge, right? Was that hate in my heart, that fury, and I didn't know if I wanted to let it go. I had good sponsors, man. My prayer life. It's funny, me and Rafik was talking about it on the way. I was like, we got to pray, bro. He's like, I'll do it, but I don't want to, right? And I remember telling my sponsor, he said, we're going to read 85 through 88 every morning. And where it says we ask God, you just ask God. I said, no. I don't pray, sponsor. He goes, I don't remember asking you if you prayed or not. We're going to read 85 through 88. I love that, man. But anyways, fourth step, same thing. He said, just do it. So I'm working through this deal, and I remember even sitting there, I'd start writing, and I'd get so crazy, man. They'd be like, hey, you okay? Like, yeah, I'm cool. You cool? And they'd be like, go, breathe, man. Like, hey, let's calm down. I got through that one with my sponsor, though. Sponsorship is the most beautiful thing ever. And my sponsor, thank God that was my sponsor at the time, because he did what a good sponsor does, and he got to know me. He got to know his man, right? And so we get to the fourth. And he says, when I was 5, my brother's daddy, he got my mama pregnant. He found out she was pregnant. He stole all her jewelry, and he left in the middle of the night. And ever since I was about 10, I was going to kill that man. By 13, 14, I was able. I'd held on to that. Now, I had been free of like the aggression or the anger. It's just instilled in me. I'm gonna kill this man. And my sponsor knew me, knew my brother, and we get to that fourth step, and I ain't got him on the list because my sponsor told me, he said, resentment is something you refeel. And so he asked me, he said, is Heath's daddy on there? And I said, no, hell no. And is hell okay? My bad. I'm doing my best, man, I promise. So I said, no, man, he ain't on there. And he started laughing. He said, why, Pat? I said, because I ain't mad at him. I don't feel nothing. I said, I'm going to kill him. And he started laughing, and he said, he does what a sponsor does, right? He said, Pat, you're going to risk your life for 51 years, which is life in Tennessee. And he said, for revenge? I said, no, sponsor. I said, I don't think you understand. I said, when it's time, I said, I won't get caught. And he got quiet. He was like, oh, this dude's serious, and he said something that changed the course of my life for sure. He said, that's okay. He said, I understand that, and I'll never tell you what to do, because anything you feel like you got to do, he said, that's your prerogative. He said, but I want to ask you a question. You ain't got to answer that question to me. You got to answer this question yourself. He said, was that man a drunk? I said, yes, sir. He said, I wonder what your life, what your mother's life or your brother's life would have been like if he would have stayed. He said, son, maybe that was God doing for y'all what you couldn't do for yourself the whole time. Man, for 20 odd years, I was going to kill this man. You couldn't tell me no different. It was what it was. You affect my family, I'm coming at you. I'm gonna take your head off. And he changed my life with that, man. It redirected my attention to something else other than what could be. And that's also what a good sponsor does. So he said, I want you to get free from this. And I said, man, I'll try. I said, I got to ask my mama. He said, Pat, you don't need your mama. I said, I'm going to ask my mama, man. Right? Now, on this list, too, that's another thing he did. He challenged me, right? I didn't have her on there. And he goes, Pat, why ain't she on there? He said, nobody that stays in our life that long has not hurt us at some point. Put her on there. I said, I don't think I can. He said, just think about it. So I ended up putting her on there. She was dating this old boy named Topper at the time. Please don't judge my mama. Some of y'all judge her because of the name. That's all right. That's all right. She's sober now. Anyways, So she's dating this dude Topper. I knock over the spice rack, and he came out there, whipped on me, and she didn't do nothing. I remember telling her, I said, I hate you. You know, in a terrible neighborhood in West Nashville, I'm walking by myself with a little Barney bag. I'm 8 at the time. She pulls up, hollering at me, you know, scoops me up, whips my behind, and I held on to it. So I write that down, right? He gives me the freedom. He says, you know, God doing for you what you couldn't do for yourself, and I'm lit up. So I got to start praying for this man because it's a part of the work. I called my brother, and I said, bro, is it okay if I pray for this man so I can get free? And he says, absolutely, man. I had to, too. I said, all right, cool, man. So I'm scared to death. I called my mama. I said, Ma, is it cool if I pray for this man that hurt you? And she, you know, in tears, the old Southern lady, said, oh, yes, baby, that's all I want for you, and blah, blah, blah. And she says, hey, and while we talking, she said, I want to talk to you about something. She said, you were 8 years old. She said, we were living on Morrow Road. And she said, you broke that spice rack. And she said, and that man beat you. And I didn't do nothing. She said, I'm so sorry. She said, me and your brother didn't have nowhere to go. I couldn't leave because I had to shelter your brother. And if I could change it today, I'd stay on the streets if I had to. And I said, all right, Mama, I love you, you know. And this is pre-anything. Oof, man, there's so much freedom in this work, man. If y'all ain't done the steps, man, oof. So I get free from that, man, and the freedom is in that peculiar twist of mind or how I see things as they pertain to me and how they hurt me. It's shifted again. Get to my daddy. My daddy was a hard man, like I said. My sister was a good kid. My old sponsor Steve A used to always say, he'd be like, well, it's hard to be a good kid, Pat. And I'd be like, what do you mean? He'd be like, well, you got to be good. That's difficult, you know what I mean? It's just such a good point to make. And she was a good kid, right? So it always looked like she received more love, you know? And she did in a lot of cases, and I understand why. But I held this against him, right? The man didn't talk to me for a year. I mean, there was a lot of pain there. And so I had my daddy on the list. And so I'm going through the prayer portion, and I'm starting to get the prayer portion, man, and prayer like a Band-Aid. For me, I got this open wound. You cut me wide open, right? And I'm bleeding out on the floor. I got to do something about the wound. I just got to stop the bleeding, right? So prayer for me is that. I'm sticking a Band-Aid on this wound to stop the bleeding. It doesn't heal the wound. That takes time. You got to peel it off. You got to clean it. You got to put another one on. Like it's a process to get to the healing part, right? So that prayer, what it's doing in this fourth step is it's kind of like it's opening me up to like questions that weren't available before because I knew too good or well. And so I get to this point, I'm praying for my daddy like like my sponsor told me to, and I had this thought. I had to know it wasn't for me, and it was just like, man, I know he wasn't there, he wasn't available for me and my brother. And it looked like he loved my sister more, but I wonder if he was like available for her, emotionally, right? And so I called my mama. Every good man, you know, I call sponsors sometimes, but I call old mama. And I said, my question, I know Dad wasn't emotionally available for me or Heath, but what about sis? And she started laughing at me. And she said, no, baby. She said, do you remember your granddaddy? I said, no, not really. And she said, I'll tell you this right now, he's the most evil man I ever knew. Said he beat on them boys, he talked down to them, he's just terrible to your father and his brothers. When my granddaddy was passing away, he's laying in his bed, he called my dad and his 3 brothers in, and he said, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get this, and you're gonna get this. Now get the f out of here. And don't you come back, you let me die the way I want to. Never got I love you, never got nothing. And she tells me that, and she says, I think your daddy did a lot better than he did. I think he told you he loved you as much as he could, didn't he? And it hit me strong, that 5th column just lit me up as I've hated this man for all these years because he didn't love me the way I thought I should be loved. Man, that list, that prayer, that power, man, is something beautiful, man. So I'm getting freed up and learning how to be a civilized human being, which I still ain't there yet, but I was working on it. Oh, man, hey, man, the collared shirt, it tripped me out, man. This is beautiful, thank you, because I don't get to do this much. I should have wore the whole deal, but, man, I'd pass out, literally. But anyways, so the collar shirt, when I got sober, like I said, I got the little Kroger bag with 3 T-shirts and some drawers and the pants I was wearing. And they so good, man. This old boy Larkin, he pulls up outside the meeting, and I said, Pat, he's like, hey, come here. I walk over there, I'm like, what's up? And he pops a trunk. It's a big old trash bag full of clothes. And he says, man, you got to do me a favor. I can't show up at the house with these again, man. My wife's been telling me to get rid of these for days. He said, there's some pretty good stuff in there, too, if you want to wear them. You ain't got to if you don't. Would you take them for me? He knew I was so fragile. If he would have showed up and been like, you need some clothes, but you stink. Like, them pants been on 4 days, right? He was so fragile with where I was. Like, he actually noticed me as a human being and like the circumstance of my life at that time. And he was good to me, man. Please take these off my hands, Some people are aware in these rooms. Some people ain't. But it's a beautiful thing. Anyways, so get on to that 4th step set me free. 5th step was awesome. Get into 6 and 7. I'm still there every single day. I think it's funny to me, like the more sober I get. When I was new, my defects and those things or the shortcomings, it's like a tall T and a pistol showing. Like, it's easy to spot. You're like, oh, that's sick, right? I can see them within myself a lot easier. But today, knowing a few passages out of that book, right, like helping other people, my defects were a tuxedo, man. They're real hard to spot. You know what I mean? So it takes like a more concerned effort every day to say where am I falling short, and like how can I be better? And for me, that's necessary. Back then it wasn't as hard, like I said, but I get to I get to 8 and 9. I got a couple good ones there. So one of the best ones. It's the only time I heard my father cry, and his cry was so crazy. It was like bound with so much pain that I couldn't be emotional because I was like, oh my God, like I was scared. It was the wildest thing, man. God rest his soul. He ain't here to be mad at me for sharing it. But I mean, I make my sponsor template, right? You're going to say it just like this, and we ain't sorry, Pat. Because if you're sorry, you're still owning the power. You tell them you were wrong, so you give them the power. Go in there and I do the whole deal. He said, Prah! And it was the craziest, like a Braveheart war cry. And I was like, Dad, are we all right, man? But it was a beautiful moment with my father, right? God bless, man. I got to be there for that man the last 5 years of his life, man. I got to know that man. I got to hear his stories. I got to hold his hand in his deathbed. I got to actually be available and be a son. I got to actually repair some of the things and ways I harmed them. But anyways, one of the most powerful amends I had, I'm at my daddy's, retirement party. And he don't like most of them folks he works. He was a cranky son of a gun, man. But he was just there, he's like, can we get coffee? I said, yeah, let me go, Pop, I'll be back. So I go to get coffee, and there's a guy named Joey I went to school with, and I was terrible to Joey. We beef on the bus. I beat him up in front of his daddy. I mean, it was a terrible thing. And for no reason, too. He's a friend in the past. I'm walking down in West End area by Vanderbilt in Tennessee, in Nashville, and this dude, big old boy, looked like David Banner, passes me, and he's looking at me, and I'm sober, but I still got it, right? So I mean, I look at him back, I'm like, what's up, man? And he goes, Pat? And I go, oh, Joey, bro, I'm so glad I saw you here, man. I'm on my 9th step. I'm about 2.5 years sober. That 9th step is we make amends where we've harmed anybody unless to do so would injure them or others. And man, I was so terrible to you, man. We were friends at one point, man, and I took advantage of that, man, and I hurt you. and I did some things I ain't proud of, and none of that was on you, man. I was wrong, and I want to make it right. This big old boy, we in the middle of, it's 50 people walking, they drop a tear. He's like, man, it's cool, man, right there, give me a big hug, and like there's this thing, and I walk away from it, and it took me 11 years sober to not hate myself. Tell y'all that, right? Some of this is a journey, right? But that day in particular, I remember walking away, and I'm like, this piece of nothing, this man who's done all these terrible things, just brought the love of goodness in somebody else's heart. In that moment, I had some freedom from that hate to myself, man. It was beautiful. The other amends, there was some statute of limitations becomes an issue on some. We're doing that, so my sponsor run me through the list, and there was one, he says, we ain't doing it, 12-year statute of limitation, you can do it later, right? And I come off the road, I was pipelining for a living at the time, I come off the road and he says, and I'm crazy, but I don't know it, right? Self can't recognize self, right? And he's like, nah, let's do this one. I'm like, what? No, we got like 7 more years, man, we ain't doing this one, right? So he's like, nah, he said, I think it says we're willing to go to any lengths, Pat. Here's a prayer I want you to apply, and here's what I want you to go do. And I'm like, man, what? I got my brother parked outside with the truck facing forward, right? And I walk into this place, and man, I'm shook to death, man. I see the cameras, I know where all of them are, and I'm just like, man, why do I do this, man? This isn't it. And I'm praying, and I get to the front, and I do the whole deal, right? I'm on my night step, hey, blah, blah, blah. And the lady says, what? Hold on, let me call somebody. I'm like, oh man, I knew this. This is like an armed robbery deal. I'm scared to death, man. And I'm sweating more than I am now for sure. And they call somebody come from the back, and I'm like, I'm probably voice wobbly, and I make the amends, and it goes, but look, I don't know what you're talking about. Hold on just a second. Let me call the head of security. I knew this was going to happen, right? I knew I was going to jail. I shouldn't have listened to that man. God bless. So he come out, and I do the whole deal, and he says, how much was it? I tell him, I said, man, I got it right here, man, if I can pay it back. He says, no, man, just don't steal no damn more. Get out of here. Oh, my God. I'm crying on the way out, just, as a win and freedom, it's like both. But no, it's just beautiful. I made one recently, man. I got pulled over in Eagle View, and it was just one of them days, man. He come up, man. I talked God awful to him. I still got that issue. I mocked him at one point. I was like, yeah, sure. And it was a terrible deal. But anyway, and I'm praying about this. There's a lady in the neighborhood, her husband's a detective, and I'm like, hey, can you give me this guy's number or contact anyway? He's like, Pat, I wouldn't go down there to the station asking and I was like, all right, you're right. So I pull up to the gym one day, and I park, and I'm finna walk in, and I look down, and there's 4 police cars pulling into Rita's, and they all park, and this guy's a bald-headed guy, right? And I'm like, I stop, and I look, and there's 2 bald-headed guys that walk into this building. I'm like, not today. This ain't the time, right? But in my head, I'm like, there ain't gonna be another time. And I'm like, all right, man, might as well. So I go in here and say, officers, excuse me. And then I go, it's one of y'all. and I do the 9-step thing, just like I was taught, right? And I say, man, I had no right to treat you that way. And the way you handled yourself, man, I respect and admire, because I don't think I'd have been able to do the same. And I got no excuse for my behavior and blah, blah, blah. And so I get done, and the one guy goes, wait a second, white Chevy. And I said, yes, sir, officer. And he was like, hey, man, I really appreciate that. And I shook hands, right? The most important thing to me, and what I continue to learn, is even the small things, I have to be thorough, honest, and fearless in trying to take care of my business in that way, right? My kids deserve that. My wife deserves that. So best thing I ever heard, and this God's will is a funny thing in AA. It's one thing confused me the most. I'd be in here and they just do God's will, brother. Like, what does that mean? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do tonight. You know, and they'd always say the same every meeting, right? God's will, brother, you just do that. There's a lady named Donna H. She give a good talk. She's awesome. Married to a dude named Montana Bob. But she had this workshop where she's telling this story, and she said the alcoholic goes to God. And he says, God, I can't live like this no more, and I can't do it. I'm dying inside, and I just want to change, and I'll do anything. I'll give you anything. So God says, all right, cool. What you got? You know, he said, I ain't got much. He says, how much money you got? He said, I got $40, God. God says, all right, give me that 40. Now, you know how we are when we get here, right? We're ready. I'm dying inside. But he asked for that 40, and he says, let me give you 20, because I'm going to need 20 for gas, God. What you think? Right? So God started laughing. He said, hold up. Well, you got a car? He said, I want that car, too. Give me that 40 and that car. So now this old boy's losing what he deems worthwhile. And he says, you can't. God, if you take my money, you take my car, like, how am I going to get to work? God smiles again. He said, you got a job? I want that too. So now he's losing everything. He's freaking out. He's like, God, if you can't take my job, you can't take my car, you can't take my money, because how am I going to pay my rent? And God smiled again. He said, well, you got a house? He said, I want that house too. So now this man's defeated and lost it all, just like we do when we get here. And God says, it hurts, don't it? He says, yes, sir. He says, well, here's how much I love you. I'll let you keep all of that, and I might even give you some more the minute you start to treat them things like they're mine and not yours. And man, I don't know if it's the southern part of me or what, but it's a story that like helps me see it. And I don't know what God's will is for me in profession. I've been super blessed in that. I got my GED from prison. I own and operate a business. Crazy blessed. I met a man in the rooms, got me started in it. He was up sharing. I was like, how you get into that pipeline stuff? He's like, I'll tell you, but nobody does it. Sure enough, I did it. But when it comes to God's will for me, it's not so much about what I need to do, but it's more so about who I need to be. And in that, I don't know if he wants me to be a firefighter or a corrosion specialist or what it is, but I do know he wants me to be kind. He wants me to be patient. He wants me to show up when I don't want to for the right thing, you know. I know he wants me to admit when I'm wrong and be willing to make amends where necessary, you know, especially with my wife. These are the things. And so God's will to me today, and man, I think when you, there's that line in We Agnostics where it's talking about like the beauty of the forest, right? And it's all ruined by noticing these two ugly trees. And I think that's how it is for me, is because of one bad experience with God, or praying for the Lamborghini and it don't come, and then like that's wrong. And I think that's wrong. Like it's not the ugly trees, it's the beauty of the forest, right? It's right there for our having. I called my sponsor the other day and I was struggling. I said, man, boss, I'm about to freak out. And I was like, but I need your help to get back on track. He said, what do you need me for? I said, what we do? I don't know. What do you mean? And he says, I think that's how every man and woman fool themselves. Is we think that love and that grace doesn't exist for us right now in this moment. Because it does, Pat. Right here. He said, I can help guide you just like I'm helped guided by other men, and you sometimes too. He goes, but for you to say that it doesn't exist for you right now, that you're crazy, you lying to yourself. And I love that because it's always right there if I'm willing to surrender to it. I got 2 minutes here. I'm going to sing a song. I'm joking. I'm from Nashville. We don't sing there, right? People come to Nashville to sing. We don't sing. But no, man, I'm so fortunate. Like I said, man, my brother's sober, and I'm grateful for AA and everybody in it as a result of my brother's sobriety, my mama's sobriety. My life's real beautiful, but man, one of the coolest things is to be a father and to be able to pull my son after I yell or something like that, to pull him in close and say, buddy, that I shouldn't have done that. Nobody deserved to be yelled at, and I want you to know I love you. There was this one time, man, that as a kid, I was always on my own. I was left to figure it out. And I didn't want nobody's hands, right? One thing about prison, like, is it teaches you to stand on your own feet, right? There's a beauty to that. It teaches you're going to have to be self-sufficient to a certain degree, right? But it also teaches you don't need nobody else. And I remember we're outside one day, and there's this little girl in the neighborhood named Audrey or Aubrey, something like that, and my boy's sitting there, and there's a group of like 6 kids, and she's standing right there, and you can tell he's scared. And she's like, you okay, Lou? And he's like, yeah. She's like, do you want to go play? And he's like, no. And she reached out that little hand, and she said, come on, I'll take you. And he took her hand. And I'm standing there watching, I got tears streaming down my face because my boy can know that as a result of this room, as a result of these steps, and as a result of y'all people. Best thing in town. And I thank y'all so much for letting me share.
Let's have another round of applause for South Philly Pat. My name's Nick, I'm an alcoholic. Thanks everybody for being here. Thank you for that powerful message of hope and recovery. Beautiful stuff. Just a reminder, the food and fellowship always starts at 8 o'clock. You can always come early. We're always looking for new home group members. Plenty of service positions available. Let's thank Mrs. K for all her dedicated work in the kitchen. It's customary to form a line. Our speakers come here at their own time and expense, so we'll do that here in the front, form a line and thank them. And we keep some help cleaning up. All the chairs go on that rack back there. Some go around the tables, I would assume. And if you care to join us, we have a beautiful way of closing. Oh, yeah. And we do circle up. We'll form a circle.